You are not broken because love keeps slipping through your hands. You are exhausted because you have been asking love to do a job that belongs to you. Every time someone leaves, something inside you collapses, not because they were everything, but because they were carrying what you never learned to hold yourself. And the more desperately you try to keep them, the more invisible you become to yourself. This is not a story about heartbreak. This is a story about the moment you finally stop outsourcing your worth and begin returning to your center. You enter love already agreeing to terms you never consciously signed. There is no ceremony, no spoken vow, no moment where you pause and say yes or no. The contract forms quietly, almost invisibly, long before the person in front of you exists. It lives in your posture when you care, in the way your breath changes when attachment appears, in how quickly you begin adjusting yourself without being asked. You tell yourself this is flexibility, empathy, maturity. But beneath it is something older and far more fragile. The belief that love must be secured through effort, endurance, and self-denial. You give more, not because you are generous, but because you are afraid of what will happen if you don't. You wait longer, not because you are patient, but because you fear that asking for clarity will cost you connection. You shrink your needs, soften your desires, edit your truth until it becomes palatable, quiet, easy to carry. You tell yourself that this is what love requires, that real love is tolerant, that real love understands, that real love does not ask for too much. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin measuring your worth by how little space you take up. This unseen contract was written early. It was shaped in moments where love arrived inconsistently, where attention came and went, where approval depended on mood, performance, silence, or usefulness. You learned that being fully yourself was risky, that honesty could lead to withdrawal, that needs could overwhelm others. And so you adapted. You learned to read the room before speaking. You learned to sense distance before it was named. You learned that being agreeable kept connection intact, and adaptation slowly became identity. As an adult, this contract follows you into love like a shadow. When connection begins, you feel excitement, but also vigilance. You monitor yourself. You become alert to changes in tone, timing, presence. You tell yourself you are just attentive, just emotionally intelligent. But beneath the attentiveness is anxiety. Beneath the sensitivity is fear. You are not meeting the other person freely. You are negotiating your existence inside the relationship. And every negotiation costs you a piece of yourself. You confuse devotion with depth. You believe that the more you sacrifice, the more meaningful the bond becomes. You equate endurance with love. You stay silent when something hurts. You rationalize behavior that unsettles you. You forgive too quickly, not because healing has occurred, but because confrontation feels dangerous. You fear that naming your needs will make you difficult, demanding, unlovable. And so you carry discomfort alone, telling yourself that love is supposed to be hard, that connection always requires compromise, that suffering is proof of sincerity. But what you call devotion is often self-erasure. What you call loyalty is often fear of abandonment. You are not choosing the other person freely. You are choosing survival. You are trying to secure a bond that feels unstable by becoming smaller inside it. And the tragedy is that the more you disappear, the less you are actually seen. Love cannot recognize you if you are not present. It can only respond to the version of you that is performing. This contract governs everything. It dictates how you communicate, how you tolerate distance, how you interpret silence. When messages slow, you wait. When effort becomes one-sided, you compensate. When your needs go unmet, you question yourself instead of the situation. You ask what you did wrong, what you could do better, how you can be more patient, more understanding, less demanding. You turn inward not to listen, but to correct yourself. And slowly, love becomes a place where you monitor and manage, rather than inhabit. You learned somewhere that being chosen required being convenient, that love favored those who did not ask too much, that emotional self-sufficiency meant not burdening others with your feelings. And so you trained yourself to endure rather than express, to hope rather than ask, to wait rather than clarify. You call this maturity. But maturity without self-respect is not growth. It is quiet self-abandonment. Fear sits at the center of this contract. Fear of being too much. Fear of being left. Fear of discovering that if you stop giving, there will be nothing left holding the connection together. And fear always demands payment. It asks for your authenticity. It asks for your boundaries. It asks for your voice. It asks you to betray yourself in exchange for temporary closeness. And the cost is cumulative. Every time you ignore your discomfort, something inside you withdraws. Every time you stay silent to keep the peace, something inside you hardens. You begin to feel tired in love, confused, unseen. Yet you struggle to name why. On the surface, you are giving, caring, loyal. But underneath, resentment grows. Loneliness grows. A quiet grief forms around the version of yourself you keep suppressing. You sense that something is wrong, but you cannot easily point to the cause because the contract has been normalized. You have mistaken self-denial for virtue. You have mistaken endurance for intimacy. Devotion without self-respect is not love. It is fear disguised as loyalty. And fear does not create safety. It creates dependence. It binds you to dynamics where your worth feels conditional and your presence feels negotiable. Love built on this foundation cannot rest. It is always waiting, adjusting, hoping. And no matter how deeply you feel, no matter how sincerely you give, the contract ensures that you remain slightly absent from your own life. The unseen contract does not make you weak. It makes you adaptive. It once kept you connected when connection felt fragile. But what once protected you now confines you. And until it is seen, it will continue to govern your relationships quietly, asking you to disappear just enough to stay. You tell yourself this time is different. Something about the connection feels charged, alive, unmistakable. There is a pull you cannot explain, a gravity that bypasses logic and goes straight to the body. Your thoughts circle around this person effortlessly. Your attention sharpens. Your emotions deepen faster than usual. You interpret this intensity as meaning, as truth, as a sign that something important is unfolding. But intensity is not proof of depth. It is proof of activation. Your nervous system responds before your mind has time to assess. It recognizes something familiar, not because it is healthy, but because it has been here before. The unpredictability, the emotional distance, the intermittent closeness create a rhythm your body already knows. Hope followed by doubt. Warmth followed by withdrawal. Presence followed by silence. This rhythm is not new. It is ancient. And because it is familiar, it feels compelling. Familiarity disguises itself as destiny when the wound remains unconscious. You believe you are choosing freely, but the choice is already biased. The attraction does not arise from clarity, but from resonance with an unresolved past. Somewhere inside you lives an imprint formed when love was uncertain, when affection was inconsistent, when attention had to be earned or awaited. That imprint still scans the world, still searches for its echo. And when it finds it, your body responds with urgency, longing, and focus. You call this chemistry. But chemistry often ignites where the wound recognizes its mirror. The people who feel calm, available, and emotionally present may seem dull to you, too easy, too quiet. They do not activate the same charge. They do not pull you into vigilance. And so you overlook them, telling yourself there is no spark. But what you call a spark is often anxiety paired with hope, a nervous system oscillating between anticipation and fear. This is not the language of secure love. It is the language of unfinished business. The pattern is subtle. It does not announce itself. It wears different faces, different voices, different circumstances. Only the feeling remains consistent. The sense of having to lean forward, of waiting, of proving, of wondering where you stand. You find yourself investing early, imagining potential, explaining away absences. You feel deeply, quickly, intensely. And when pain appears, you rationalize it as the cost of passion. You tell yourself that great love is never simple, that depth requires struggle. But struggle is not depth. It is friction. Each repetition strengthens the illusion. You tell yourself you have a type, that you are drawn to complexity, that you love deeply and others cannot meet you there. But this story protects the pattern from scrutiny. It turns repetition into identity. It makes suffering feel meaningful instead of diagnostic. And as long as the pattern remains unnamed, it continues choosing for you. What you are truly drawn to is not the person, but the opportunity to resolve the past. On an unconscious level, you hope that this time the ending will be different, that this person will stay, that they will choose you without conditions, that they will finally provide the love that once felt uncertain. You are not seeking the present. You are trying to rewrite history. And because the task is impossible, the disappointment is inevitable. Every time it ends, you ask yourself why this keeps happening. You analyze the details, the timing, the words, the behavior. You promise yourself you will choose differently next time. But the promise is made at the level of thought, while the pattern lives in the body. And the body does not respond to promises. It responds to familiarity. Until the wound is met consciously, it will continue pulling you toward the same emotional terrain, regardless of your intentions. The pattern feels like destiny because it bypasses choice. It feels inevitable because it operates below awareness. You feel caught, as if something larger than you is at work. But what feels like fate is often repetition seeking recognition. The pattern does not want to punish you. It wants to be seen. It wants you to pause long enough to ask not who you are attracted to, but what is being activated within you. Repetition is not failure. It is communication. The psyche repeats what has not been integrated. It circles the same emotional territory, hoping this time you will notice. Hoping this time you will stay present instead of being swept away by intensity. Hoping this time you will choose awareness over compulsion. But as long as the pattern remains romanticized, it will continue to feel magical. And as long as it feels magical, it will remain unexamined. Until awareness enters, repetition will feel like destiny. You will keep meeting different people who evoke the same emotional response. You will keep mistaking activation for connection. You will keep confusing longing with love. And each time, the pattern will quietly return, not because you are broken, but because something within you is still asking to be understood. The moment you begin to observe, instead of explain, to feel without chasing, to question the pull instead of surrendering to it blindly, the illusion weakens. The pattern does not disappear overnight, but it loosens its grip. And for the first time, attraction becomes something you can witness rather than something that carries you away. You do not fall in love with who they are. You fall in love with the image that awakens inside you when they appear. Something in their presence lights up a dormant part of your psyche, and you mistake that awakening for proof that they are the source. But what is stirred was already within you, waiting. Projection is the psyche's way of externalizing what has not yet been integrated. It reaches outward, places meaning onto another, and says, "This is where my missing pieces live." You project strength onto someone because you have learned to distrust your own. Somewhere along the way, your decisiveness was questioned, your instincts dismissed, your authority softened to keep peace. You learn to doubt your inner compass, so when you meet someone who appears grounded, confident, unwavering, you attribute to them what you have buried in yourself. Their certainty feels intoxicating, not because it is rare, but because it mirrors a capacity you have not yet reclaimed. You project clarity because you are still fragmented inside. You project stability because your inner world feels unsettled. You project value because you are still searching for confirmation that you matter. The other becomes a screen, and onto that screen, you cast the qualities you believe will finally complete you. This is why love can feel so sudden and absolute. You are not responding to the person alone, but to the internal image activated by them. And the stronger the projection, the more intense the attachment. At first, the projection feels like truth. Everything aligns. You feel seen without having revealed yourself. You feel understood without having spoken fully. You believe you have finally encountered someone who reflects your depth, your longing, your complexity. But what you are truly encountering is resonance, a psychic overlap where inner content finds an external host. The danger is not the projection itself, but the unconsciousness of it. As time passes, reality begins to intrude. The person shows limits, inconsistencies, human flaws. They do not embody the image consistently. They fail to live up to the internal role you assigned them without their consent. This is when confusion begins. Disappointment. Hurt. You feel misled, as if something sacred has been violated. But nothing was taken from you. What collapses is the illusion that another could carry what belongs to you. When the image cracks, the pain feels personal. You feel betrayed, abandoned, unchosen. But the betrayal is not theirs. It is the moment you realize you handed someone else the task of confirming your existence. You outsourced your worth, your direction, your sense of self. And when they inevitably fail at this impossible task, the loss feels devastating. Not because they left, but because the projection was sustaining something fragile inside you. Projection is not a flaw in character. It is a stage of development. The psyche projects what it has not yet owned. It externalizes inner potential so that it can be recognized. But recognition must eventually turn inward. Otherwise, love becomes dependency. and connection becomes a search for mirrors rather than a meeting between two selves. The danger of projection is not that it idealizes the other, but that it obscures reality. You stop seeing who they are. You relate to the image instead. You interpret behavior through the lens of what you hope they represent. You excuse actions that contradict your values. You minimize discomfort to protect the fantasy. And slowly, you drift further from truth, both theirs and your own. Projection also creates imbalance. You place someone on a pedestal, then unconsciously resent them for standing there. You expect them to embody your disowned strength, your certainty, your value. And when they do not, you feel disappointed, even angry. But the anger is misdirected. It belongs to the part of you that has not yet been claimed, the part that wants to be lived rather than admired from afar. To withdraw projection is not to stop loving. It is to love more clearly. It is the moment you recognize that what you seek in another is an invitation to develop it within yourself. The strength you admire is yours to cultivate. The certainty you crave is yours to build. The value you long to feel is yours to affirm. When projection is withdrawn, love becomes less intoxicating, but more real. Less dramatic, but more grounded. This process is unsettling. Without projection, the connection may feel quieter. The intensity may fade. You may feel exposed, less protected by fantasy. But what remains is truth. And truth allows for genuine intimacy. Not the intimacy of illusion, but the intimacy of two people meeting without masks, without roles, without unconscious contracts. Projection shows you what you are still refusing to claim. It highlights the places where your self-concept remains incomplete, where your power is unintegrated, where your worth feels conditional. It is not an enemy to be eliminated, but a message to be decoded. When you listen, when you turn inward instead of clinging outward, the mirror becomes a doorway. As you reclaim what you once projected, relationships change. You stop needing others to carry your meaning. You stop demanding they confirm your value. You meet them as they are, not as symbols of your salvation. And in doing so, you finally become available for a connection that is not built on illusion, but on presence. The mirror of projection does not shatter you to punish you. It breaks so that you can step through it. Need is silent, but it is unmistakable. It does not announce itself loudly or demand attention openly. It settles into the space between moments. It lingers in pauses, in waiting, in the way your thoughts keep circling long after nothing new has happened. It is present before any word is spoken, before any message is sent, before any question is formed. And although it has no sound, it carries weight. Others feel it instinctively, not as an accusation, but as pressure. Need lives in anticipation, in the constant checking of time, in the subtle tightening of the body, when a response does not arrive as expected, in the inability to fully relax unless reassurance is given from the outside. You may appear calm, composed, reasonable, but internally there is movement that never settles. Thoughts replay, scenarios unfold, meanings are assigned to silence. And while you call this caring, attentiveness, or emotional depth, what is truly at work is anxiety searching for relief. This anxiety does not come from the present moment alone. It is carried forward from a time when safety depended on signals, when love was inconsistent, when closeness could not be relied upon. Your nervous system learned to stay alert, to monitor, to anticipate withdrawal before it happened. And now, in adult relationships, that same vigilance continues, even when there is no immediate threat. The body does not distinguish between past and present until awareness intervenes. You do not intend to place weight on anyone. You do not consciously ask them to hold your emotional stability. But need has a way of transferring responsibility without words. It appears in subtle expectations, in the hope that the other will soothe you, that their presence will quiet your mind, that their consistency will finally allow you to rest. And slowly, without realizing it, you assign them a role they never agreed to take on. No matter how kind someone is, no matter how patient or loving, they will eventually feel this pressure. It is not cruelty that makes people withdraw. It is exhaustion. Being placed in the position of regulator, stabilizer, or proof of worth is unsustainable. Love wants to move freely. It wants to expand, not manage. And when it is asked to become a constant reassurance system, it loses its lightness. You may believe that if you explain yourself better, if you love more deeply, if you give enough, the anxiety will dissolve. But reassurance does not cure need. It feeds it. Every moment of external soothing teaches the nervous system that peace comes from outside. And so the cycle deepens. Relief is temporary. The calm fades. The waiting resumes. And the need returns stronger, because it has learned that relief is possible if someone responds correctly. Love does not leave because you are too much. This belief wounds deeply, but it is incomplete. Love leaves because it is asked to replace something essential that must be built internally. It is asked to provide safety, certainty, and self-worth all at once. And even the most loving person cannot carry another's inner foundation without losing their own balance. When love is used as medicine, it becomes a burden. Medicine implies illness, deficiency, lack. It turns connection into treatment. The other becomes responsible for alleviating pain they did not create and cannot resolve. Over time, the relationship shifts. What once felt warm begins to feel heavy. What once felt intimate begins to feel obligatory. And even if affection remains, freedom begins to shrink. Need also distorts perception. You interpret neutral actions through the lens of threat. A delay becomes a rejection. A change in tone becomes loss of interest. Absence becomes abandonment. You are not responding to what is happening now, but to what once happened and never healed. And because the reaction feels real in your body, you trust it more than reality itself. The tragedy of need is that it seeks closeness, but produces distance. The more reassurance is required, the more space the other unconsciously seeks. Not because they do not care, but because they feel confined. Love needs room to breathe. Need tightens the space. It narrows the field until every interaction carries emotional consequence. And eventually, the relationship cannot hold that density. Need also keeps you from meeting yourself. Every time anxiety arises, attention turns outward. What are they doing? What are they thinking? What does this mean? And the inner landscape remains unexplored. The discomfort is avoided rather than understood. But need does not dissolve through avoidance. It dissolves through presence. When you begin to stay with the sensation instead of reaching for relief, something shifts. You start noticing that the anxiety has a shape, a rhythm, a story. It speaks of old fears, unmet needs, unclaimed parts of the self. It asks for attention, not escape. And when you listen instead of outsourcing relief, the weight begins to change. This does not happen quickly. The nervous system resists at first. It prefers the familiar cycle of reassurance and collapse. But slowly, through awareness, the dependency loosens. You learn to tolerate uncertainty without reaching outward. You learn to rest inside yourself, even when no one is confirming your worth. And with this, the weight lifts. Love changes when need is released. It becomes lighter, more spacious, less urgent. You stop asking it to save you. You stop using it to stabilize what you have not yet stabilized within. And paradoxically, this is when love feels safest. Not because it promises permanence, but because it no longer holds your survival. Burdens are eventually put down, not out of malice, but out of necessity. When you no longer place the burden of your inner peace on another, love no longer has a reason to retreat. It can stay, not as a solution, but as a companion. There is a moment when pain loses its theatrical quality. It no longer demands to be dramatized, justified, or blamed on circumstance. It becomes quiet, precise, almost sober. You stop asking why this keeps happening to you, and begin asking what this is asking of you. This shift is subtle, but it changes everything. Pain stops being an enemy to escape and becomes information, a signal pointing inward. This is the turning point most people avoid because it removes every illusion of rescue. You realize, not intellectually but somatically, that no one is coming to save you from yourself. No person, no relationship, no future scenario will arrive to undo what you refuse to face. At first, this realization feels stark, almost cold. But it is not despair, it is clarity. And clarity is the beginning of freedom. When the fantasy of being rescued dissolves, something solid appears beneath it. Responsibility for your own inner life. This is where the chasing stops. Not as a strategy, but as a consequence. You no longer pursue affection to regulate your emotions. You no longer explain yourself excessively to be understood. You no longer prove your worth through endurance or self-sacrifice. The energy that once flowed outward in urgency begins to return. And with it comes discomfort. The kind of discomfort that cannot be avoided by distraction, reassurance, or attachment. You begin to sit with what you once escaped. The emptiness, the restlessness, the loneliness that rises when there is no one to lean on emotionally. At first, this solitude feels exposing. Without the mirror of another, you feel uncontained, undefined. But slowly, something else emerges. Loneliness reveals itself not as punishment, but as an invitation. A space where neglected parts of you can finally surface without interruption. You start meeting the versions of yourself you abandoned to be loved. The part that learned to be quiet. The part that learned to be agreeable. The part that learned to wait instead of ask. These parts are not weak. They are adaptive. They once kept you connected when connection felt fragile, but now they want to be released from their roles. They want to be seen, integrated, and allowed to rest. Individuation is not about becoming someone new. It is about reclaiming what was fragmented. You stop identifying solely with the persona you built to survive. You allow complexity back into your self-image. You admit your anger without acting it out. You acknowledge your needs without apologizing for them. You recognize your fear without letting it drive your choices. This is slow work, often uncomfortable, always honest. As you integrate these parts, boundaries begin to form naturally, not as defenses, not as walls meant to keep others out, but as declarations of self-respect. A boundary is not a threat, it is a statement of truth. It says, "This is where I end, and you begin." It says, "This is what I can offer, and what I cannot. It is not meant to control others, but to anchor yourself. With boundaries, something shifts in your nervous system. You no longer feel responsible for managing others' reactions. You allow disappointment without rushing to fix it. You allow misunderstanding without immediately clarifying. You learn that staying aligned with yourself matters more than being perceived positively. This is not indifference, it is integrity. Individuation also dismantles the internal hierarchy where others' needs automatically come first. You stop abandoning yourself preemptively. You pause before agreeing. You listen inward before responding outward. And in doing so, you discover something unexpected. Your capacity to be present deepens. When you are no longer split between who you are and who you think you must be, your attention becomes steady. This process is not glamorous. It does not announce itself with confidence or certainty. Often, it feels like standing still while the world moves on. But something fundamental is reorganizing inside you. You are no longer driven by fear of loss. You are guided by coherence. You begin choosing not what promises relief, but what preserves self-respect. Staying with yourself becomes a practice, not a rigid discipline, but a quiet commitment. When anxiety arises, you do not immediately reach outward. You stay. When longing appears, you do not rush to fill it. You observe. When discomfort surfaces, you allow it to teach you rather than silence it. This staying is not passive. It is deeply active. It requires courage to remain present without escape. Over time, the internal center strengthens. You feel less reactive, less compelled, less fragmented. You no longer need constant confirmation of your value because you have begun to experience it directly. Not as an idea, but as an embodied sense of being anchored within yourself. And from this place, relationships are no longer lifelines. They become choices. Individuation is not isolation. It is the foundation for true connection. When you no longer need others to complete you, you can finally meet them without distortion. You show up without agenda. You relate without bargaining. You love without disappearing. And perhaps most importantly, you remain loyal to yourself even when attachment pulls. This is the turning point. Not because life becomes easier, but because you stop running from yourself. And in staying, you begin to belong to yourself in a way that no relationship could ever replace. When you no longer need love to validate you, something subtle but irreversible shifts inside you. The urgency dissolves. The constant scanning quiets. You stop measuring moments for reassurance. Stop interpreting pauses as threats. Stop reading meaning into every gesture. Your nervous system no longer lives in anticipation of loss. It rests. And from that rest, a different quality of presence emerges. You are no longer leaning forward into love, hoping it will catch you. You are standing where you are. This is not indifference. It is groundedness. You still feel deeply, but your feelings no longer destabilize you. You are not negotiating your worth through attention or consistency. You do not need to be mirrored constantly to know who you are. Your sense of value is no longer dependent on being chosen, desired, or pursued. It is anchored. And because it is anchored, it doesn't demand proof. Love approaches differently when hunger is absent. There is no rush, no intensity that feels like gravity pulling you off balance. There is space, curiosity, a natural unfolding that does not require force. You notice how different this feels in the body. Less adrenaline, less anxiety, more steadiness. You are not trying to secure the connection. you are allowing it to reveal itself. Without hunger, you listen more clearly. You see the other person as they are, not as a solution to your inner unrest. You are able to observe patterns without immediately personalizing them. You can discern compatibility without being blinded by longing. You no longer confuse excitement with safety or intensity with intimacy. You trust your pace. You trust your timing. You trust yourself. Love without hunger is not dramatic. It does not feel like losing yourself. It does not consume your attention or rearrange your identity. It integrates into your life rather than overtaking it. You do not abandon your routines, values, or boundaries to maintain it. You do not feel compelled to perform or prove. You show up as you are because you are no longer afraid that being yourself will cost you connection. There is a quiet confidence in this state, not the confidence of superiority or control, but the confidence of self-belonging. You know that you can survive disappointment. You know that you can tolerate uncertainty. You know that even if love leaves, you will remain intact. This knowledge is not intellectual. It is embodied. It lives in how you breathe, how you wait, how you respond, rather than react. Because love is no longer the source of your wholeness. It is freed from carrying impossible weight. It doesn't have to rescue you, stabilize you, or define you. It can simply be what it is, a connection between two autonomous selves. And when love is freed from the role of savior, it becomes lighter, more honest, more sustainable. In this state, you no longer cling to potential. You no longer invest in who someone could become. You relate to who they are now. You allow reality to inform your choices rather than hope. And if something does not align, you feel the disappointment without collapsing. You do not chase closure. You do not bargain with yourself. You let go without self-betrayal. Love without hunger also means you no longer rush to fill silence. You are comfortable with space. You allow relationships to breathe. You trust that what is meant to deepen will do so naturally, without pressure. And what cannot meet you in this steadiness will fall away without needing to be forced. This kind of love is not fueled by fear of loss. It is guided by choice. Each day, you choose to stay, not because you are afraid of being alone, but because you want to share your life. And if one day the choice changes, you will grieve, but you will not disappear. You will not lose your center. You will not question your worth. Most people never reach this place, not because it is unattainable, but because it requires giving up the fantasy that love will complete them. It requires sitting with emptiness long enough to discover that it was never emptiness, but unused space. Space where self-trust could grow. Space where identity could stabilize. Space where presence could root itself. Love does not arrive when you are empty. It arrives when you are full enough to share without disappearing. When you no longer need to be chosen to exist. When you no longer abandon yourself to keep connection alive. When you can stand in your own life without apology. And when love meets you there, it is no longer a question of survival. It is companionship. It is resonance. It is two people who already belong to themselves, choosing to walk together without hunger, without fear, without losing their way back home.